So as a traveler, I made some mistakes, and it's a nice day out there actually. I made some mistakes, and I always believe that you've got to learn from mistakes, and even better, it's like 10 times better if you learn from someone else's mistakes and you don't have to make them. So I made up a list of a few stories and a few mistakes I've made. Some of them funny, some of them not so funny, but hopefully it gives everyone out there a better opportunity at, getting it right, especially if you're a first-time traveler. Well, let's get into it. Number one has got to be leaving your shoes on the beach. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, like, why would you leave your shoes on the beach? What were you doing with shoes on the beach in the first point? But hear me out. So I love my sneakers. I love wearing closed shoes, and I always have at least 2 pairs of shoes, no matter what the holiday is, even beach holidays. So this one time we went to Malindi, which is in the coast of Kenya, and I didn't have any sandals or open shoes with me, but I had a really nice pair of shoes that I had just bought. They were like my best shoes, honestly, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so we decided to go for a walk on the beach one of the days we were there. And the beautiful thing was that in Malindi, the tide goes really far out. So you can literally walk to the coral. And we thought, you know what? So as we're walking down the beach and sort of getting into the water and wading, I decided, I don't really want to bring my shoes with me all the way out there. So I'm just going to patch them with our water bottles. Gotta drink water, stay hydrated. With our water bottles and just sort of lay them down on the beach. And in my mind, it made perfect sense. What's gonna go wrong? Nothing's gonna go wrong. So we waded out and had a lovely time, exploring these little pools of sand in between the coral. And I was like, okay, cool, let's go and get some breakfast. As we walk back to the beach, the first thing I notice is, where did I put my shoes? Because I can't see them now. And I just thought, you know what? We're just far out. It's not a big deal. It will be fine. No. So as we're getting closer to where the shoes were, I noticed the water bottles and they've sort of tipped over. And I was like, what's going on here? I look left, I look right, there are no shoes to be seen. So moral of the story is, if you must bring shoes on vacation, just bring some open slippers or don't carry them down to the beach, because someone will see some nice shoes and they'll take them. Next one is, you've got to plan your trips. You've got to plan this stuff out. You've got to do your research, or you need to get someone to do your research for you. Hippie safaris. When it comes down to planning trips, especially if you're the type of person who needs a visa to visit every other country in this world, shout out to us Africans, you probably need some help. I was planning a trip with my fiance to Turkey, and in my mind, we could go to Turkey. All we need is an e-visa as Kenyans. No. So as we're going through the process, we found the places we want to visit, we found the towns we want to stay in, we're looking at the accommodation, and I just had a funny feeling, and I was like, you know what, like let me just double check this visa situation. So as I go to double check the visa situation, I end up finding out that I need to apply in person. And at that time I was living in Europe, and for me that's a little bit more effort than I would like to put in when doing a trip. So long story short, we changed from going to Turkey to going to Spain and Portugal, which was probably the best choice. Like, I loved Spain and I loved Portugal. But, moral of the story again is, you've got to plan for these things, or you need to have someone who knows exactly what they're doing and exactly what they're looking at. And that's how you travel with ease. Just make it worry-free. It can be a lot easier. The other one is actually quite funny. On one of my trips to Canada, and this is in the dead cold of winter, like freezing out there. And, everyone in Canada felt like that's, it's normal weather. You're Canadian. You're not scared of the cold. It's not cold. But I remember the first week of January, the temperature just dropped astronomically. We're talking negative 40. I never felt weather like that. And the thing is, when you're on a trip, when you're on a holiday, you still want to see so much stuff. You still want to go do your little tours and stuff. And one day I was like, you know what? I want to go into town. I want to see what this country has to offer. I want to see what this town, Edmonton, cold town, has to offer. So I wore like 3 layers, grabbed my heavy ass jacket, and was like, you know what, we're getting through this. And it wasn't that bad. It had just snowed. The blizzard had already gone through, and I was like, this isn't too bad. So I caught the bus into town, and I was enjoying it, and everything was going pretty well until boom, I start seeing snow. And I'm like, yay, snow, this is cool, this is fun. It just adds to the experience. And then boom, the snow gets heavy. Before I know it, I'm literally navigating through a blizzard. I mean, snow is hitting you in the face. The wind is so crisp and so cold that a few times I did turn and start walking backwards because I was like, I just can't get it on my face. Like, let me just walk backwards. It was so cold. And that's the thing with these trips. Like, you need to be aware. Research, again, you need to be aware about where you're visiting and what that's like. I walked through that snow blizzard and I was like, you know what? This is part of the experience. But it sucked. It sucked. So always check the weather conditions before you leave the house and just know the place you're in. And you know what? As a bonus, just trust the locals. They know what they're talking about most of the time. You've also kind of got to know what cities are Uber cities and what cities are public transport cities. In a perfect world, we're looking at a split of mostly public transport cities, and I love that. I love being able to get off the train, hop on a bus, and drop off at your accommodation. But there's just some cities that are just not it. And there's some cities where, you know what, you just take that Uber. When we were in the south of France, right next to the Italian border, we spent time in a small little beachside town, and it was something else. It was beautiful. I mean, the colorful houses, the lovely streets. It was amazing. You see, the problem with that city, though, was that as beautiful as it is, it was also very old. And old cities have one thing in common: the tiniest of tiny streets. And we were traveling with big bags. But you know what? I had the phone out. I was like, we can navigate to this place. We've got it on Google Maps. What more do we need? We should have got an Uber. Because we walked from the train station to the bottom of this massive hill with these beautiful houses carved into the hill. But man, how you got to those houses? We're talking tiny paths of really high stairs. And you know, you're just thinking as you're going through this in the heat of summer, sweating, like heavy drenched sweating. You're just going, man, the locals must be so fit. You have like old little cute grandmas just hopping along on the stairs, and you're just there lugging your luggage with like heavy breathing, and it's just not it. You don't need to put yourself through that. So when you pick a city and you decide that's where you're gonna go, you gotta do some research. You've got to have a look out, see what it's like there. Just have a little go. That's what I mean by some cities tend to be Uber cities and some tend to be more public transport city. That was definitely an Uber city. It doesn't hurt to get an Uber from the train station or your point of entry to your accommodation. You know, it sort of gives you those bearings, and it's worth it, because maybe after that you're not going to need one, but you might as well get one just to get that right. Another travel tip I could probably give is unfriendly neighbors, but not the ones you're thinking of. When I'm speaking on unfriendly neighbors here, I'm talking about, well, let me just paint a picture. I was spending some time in Uganda, in East Africa, and I was on tour with the Kenya national rugby team, and we would have trainings in the morning. And Uganda is beautiful. The city is literally paradise. It's like being in the middle of a jungle, with the trees everywhere and the thick brush. And we were staying at this lovely hotel, and we were on the ground floor. So on the back patio, you'd have these this sort of picnic setup with a few chairs and a table, and it was lush back there. I mean, lovely vegetation, loads of trees, and a lovely fence. And after training, we would come sit back there, you know, have a little chat and drop off like our sweaty clothes because it's really humid out there. So we'd let them dry there before, you know, you put them in the wash. One of the days after training, we've set our stuff down, we've had our chats, and then we head off to lunch. After lunch, we come back, as you do, to, you know, sort of get ready for your second session. And I was just reaching out to grab hold of one of my shirts. As I go, whoa, what's that silver little, you know, like this thread like silver that was moving from my shirt to the table to the chair, and I was like, what is that? But as I got closer, the biggest spider I had seen in a long time was just staring right back at me. I don't know if you've seen like Aubrey spiders. I've seen a few since I've been back now, and I'll probably add some pictures to this or like a video and you can have a look. They're not small. That thing was just perched right on my shirt. And I mean, if I had not taken like a second to think about it, I would have just picked it right up. And man, what a situation. So you've got to check your clothes. You've got to do a little dust, turn your shoes upside down when you're in a new place. And depending on the place, you never know what you'd run into. Sometimes it's fun, but sometimes it's a lot. The other one I feel is a pretty well-known thing to do is like, you've just got to be wary of who you trust. And in this situation, more of taxis and public transport, but mostly taxis. I mean, today we've got so many apps that you can use as a taxi app, and it gives you that ability to keep some sort of accountability, be it to the provider or the person working for the provider. So I would say in a place you're not familiar with, Uber is probably your best friend. I've heard of a few situations and seen a few situations where people have decided to, you know, in the hopes of supporting local businesses, help the local taxi company or taxi guy that picks you up at the airport. But to be honest, it's just that lack of accountability that is kind of worrying. You don't get the same, you might get the same level of service, but the liability it's quite high. I remember hearing a story of someone who had a pretty bad incident with a local taxi driver, and it was at night, and it was a pretty bad incident. And I believe like it's better if you don't have to go through that, and if there is someone you can report it to. And at the end of the story, they ended up losing their phone, and it was a new phone, an expensive phone. And you know, that was Eastern Europe, and I feel like that situation probably can be avoided. If you're going out and having a good time on the town, it doesn't hurt to actually just go and just call that Uber, because even if you lose your phone or leave it in the car, you know, you can always hold someone accountable to that, and it's just safer. You've got to take care of yourself when you're traveling. It's a big part. And in the same line, it's got to be the tourist traps, man. I mean, you can find some lovely, helpful channels on YouTube about tourist traps, but I used to watch them. I was a big fan of it. And then I got caught. Like literally fell face flat for a tourist trap. We were in Italy and I got caught by the bracelet one. But in all fairness, he was an African dude, and I was vibing. I was like, I haven't seen another African in a while, man. This is like my guy. He came over, he was like, hey, my friend, you know? And I was like, yeah, what's up, bro? And he was like, oh, can you get I see you've got like, you like this bracelet? And I was like, yeah, I like it. And he was like, you know, have it. And I was like, cheers, bro. And he just walked off. And I was like, cool, let's walk. And as I took that first step, he went, hey, my friend, have a look at my wife, you know, and he pulled out his phone and I was like, oh, cool. And he was, you know, I was like, cool, thanks for showing me that. Anyway, I'm on my way. Then he handed me something else. and another thing. And then he was like, maybe you can give me something for, for my wife and my kids, and then came the story. And the problem isn't that, if you're purchasing one of these things, it'll probably cost you €1 or two. But after the sob story, you end up parting with like €10, which is an inflated price over what you were buying. So you've just got to be wary. Like, people are smart and people can sniff tourist vibes on you. So you've got to really look out for that. It's important. And that's all I have for today. It's been a long enough video, and it is pouring outside. It is the rain season out here, and let's see if we can give you guys a look at how wet it is outside. But I hope you enjoyed that, and subscribe for more tips. Look at that rain. It is pouring. Short rains.